morning.
Alright, go.
Good morning.
Morning, beach.
Quadcast
Ooh, look at this
number 10.
dragon crawling into bed.
I'm a giraffe. I'm a giraffe. See, my torso's too long, so you can't see the hood. You won't stay up, but see.
Oh, she's got eyelashes.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm Raphael the Ninja Turtle.
Wow.
I'm Yoda, but you can't tell.
Here, hold this. Let me see if I can get
I
my
have
hood up.
ears.
I look like a peaceful dragon, but I'm really Jacaerys from Game of Thrones.
She's a ninja turtle. I don't even know what that means.
That's sad.
That was embarrassing.
Wait,
Can we cut that out?
I hope so.
Why? Emily was.
Embarrassing myself. So we were thinking about ideas to do for this quadcast, and we were like, oh, what if we made those little Halloween cookies and ate them? So we went to the store. We were trying to buy them.
Cut to the cookies.
And all they had were Christmas cookies, but not just Christmas cookies. They only had elf cookies. So today, on the day of October 28th, we eat Christmas cookies instead of Halloween cookies.
Merry Christmas. Merry Halloween.
Yes, it is a merry Halloween.
So for this quadcast, we got all dressed up for Halloween and set the mood
I wouldn't say all dressed up.
with the candles.
Dress down as much as possible.
And we're gonna read some scary stories online. I literally Googled scary stories for in the dark, because we're in the dark and we want to be scared.
And we should talk about our biggest fears and stuff. We should be like, oh, I'm scared of this shit.
My biggest fear is death. My biggest fear is Teresa Hawkins. She watches this.
It's true. You're our biggest fear, Trees.
What am I? I'm afraid of death by drowning.
Go.
It's
Death
one
in
of my
general.
biggest. No,
Wait, are you being serious?
just by
Yeah.
drowning.
Coward.
Because if you
No
you think
more.
about it, if you're lit on fire, your nerves go gone. They burn off.
But you still feel the fire.
Yeah,
Why do you
it's
think
not like-
people always scream when they get burned to death?
Eventually,
It would be scary to
be burning alive.
Yeah, but it burns. That's why
Yeah,
they're
but
screaming.
it
Imagine,
burns, but not after a few seconds.
Being underwater.
No. I'm still stuck on this. No, after a few seconds, your nerves you can't feel anymore, but it's still worrying that you can't feel anything and you're on fire. So that's probably why they're screaming.
Probably. Still, imagine being underwater and not being able to come back up and holding your breath and having no choice but to open your mouth and breathe in the water into your lungs.
That's so sad.
That's so scary. That's my biggest fear.
My biggest fear is Teresa. She's scary.
She is.
She's
Big scare.
She is big scare.
big spook.
I don't know. I think I'm scared of getting stabbed. I feel like that
Really?
hurts. Or getting shot. I have dreams where I get shot a lot.
Same.
I can't feel it though, and then I always pretend to be dead so the person shooting me stops. Really?
Yeah.
And then you keep going when
Yeah.
they leave.
I'm always like, wow, I'm dead.
What kind of dreams are you guys having?
having?
The good kind.
Fingers stuck in the wall.
Normally, I just Megan. I dream a lot about
Band or eating. Because that's what I think about a lot. Eating the band.
The band.
um.
So there's a few different kind of scary stories on here. I'm gonna read you guys the titles, and you gotta pick which one. We'll read through 4 of them, and if they suck, we'll stop so you don't get to see the ending.
Be a short cast today.
All right. The Thing. Harold. The Red Spot.
Nope, Harold. We're
Do
doing
the
Harold.
thing. I want the thing. No, the big toe.
The Big Toe.
That one effed me up when I was a kid. I remember that.
High Beam.
No, do the big toe. It's that with that toe.
Green Ribbon.
The big
The
toe.
Hook. Bloody Fingers. The Babysitter. The Drum. Room for One More.
The drum.
And the Viper.
If
Okay.
there's, I'm
Why
calling
don't we each pick one?
Mike Cartman.
Mike
All
Gardner.
I'm gonna read a few more. The Bride. The Dream. One Sunday Morning. Me Tai Do T Walker.
Mitai Doti Walker.
That's literally what it says. The Dare. Burning Feet. The Dead Hand. Just Delicious. The Guests.
Let's do the
Me.
big toe, bloody fingers.
Just delicious me
Alright.
eating that whole block of mozzarella.
You really did.
I ate a whole block of
Alright.
mozzarella. You're
Dad!
gonna get constipated. Come here. Can you come here, please? He's gonna walk straight into that.
Be careful.
We have a contraption.
Into my room. Be careful of the camera.
Come here.
Come here.
Tell us something scary.
Look into the camera and say something scary.
Where's the camera?
Well, you gotta talk into this microphone. Say something scary.
Boo.
Oh! Whoa! He got us.
Thank you.
Featuring Kevin Hawkins.
Very
Yes.
scary.
That it does.
He's
Does
a
Boo attract the ghosts? No, ghosts say Boo.
And they scare you.
It's like their little language.
Alright.
Okay.
The Big Toe.
Me. This one's so scary.
Are you
It's
ready?
about Meg.
I am the big
This is an autobiography.
One day.
Hold the microphone.
Oh. One day. What sauce?
Do you have water in here?
No.
I can't drink that diet.
I have got.
I guess I'll have to.
Will
drink
we
it.
ever get to the scary story? I don't think so.
Did you have to cough right into the camera?
Yes.
The microphone.
The maxophone. Izzy has this phenomena where she just can't say what she's thinking and she just says the opposite of what she's thinking.
Do I?
Yes.
Do I do that a lot?
Yeah. Anyways,
Anywho.
the big toe. One day, a boy was digging in his garden when he saw a big toe sticking out of the ground. He tried to pick it up, but it was stuck. It wouldn't budge, so he pulled as hard as he
the
could.
kind of shit we would tell Teresa when we didn't want to weed the garden. Like, we found a big
I saw
toe.
a big toe.
So, no, I'm trying to read the story.
Oh my god.
He pulled as hard as he could, and it came off in his hand. Then he heard something
On
groan.
a toe in the ground.
Would you leave it?
Yes.
This is we critique scary story.
No, I would pull on the toe.
I would not. I
So I-
ain't
so
touch
I-
it. I don't even like my own
So
toe.
I could show Teresa so she
Oh,
could
here, ready? The boy took the big toe into the kitchen and showed it to his mom.
I would show it to Teresa and be like, Teresa, I can't weed the garden anymore. There's a toe.
Ready? He goes, that looks like, or she goes, that looks like a nice piece of meat, she said. I'll put it in the soup and we'll have it for dinner.
I remember this story.
Is she okay?
That night at the dinner table, the boy's father scooped the big toe out of the soup and chopped it up into 3 pieces. The father, the mother, and the boy each ate a piece. Then they did the dishes, and when it got dark, they went to bed.
The end.
No. What do you guys think's gonna happen from here on
Well,
out?
I know what's gonna happen because I've heard this story. But
What do you guys think's gonna happen? Let's guess.
The rest of the body is gonna come out.
I think that the toe, pieces of the toe, are gonna come up. The ghost is gonna get its toe back somehow.
All right. The boy fell asleep almost at once, but in the middle of the night, he was rudely awakened by a strange sound. He listened closely. It sounded like there was a voice coming from outside his window, and it was calling to him. "Where is my big toe?" it groaned. When the boy heard that, he got very
do you
scared.
think it was the left big toe or the right big toe?
Right.
Oh, I thought left.
But he thought, it doesn't know where I am. It will never find me.
How would it not know?
It's outside your window. Obviously, it's found you.
Yeah, well,
Where's my big toe?
Then he heard the voice once more, only now it was closer. "Where is my big toe?" it groaned.
finding you. He knows.
The boy pulled the blankets over his head and closed his eyes. "I'll go to sleep," he thought. "When I wake up, it'll be gone."
No.
If that ain't me and all of
Me
my
with all of
problems.
me with homework assignments.
All right. But he soon heard the back door open, and again he heard the voice. "Where is my big toe?" it groaned. Then the boy heard footsteps move through the kitchen, into the dining room, into the living room, into the front hall. They slowly climbed the stairs. Closer and closer they came. Soon they were upstairs. in the upstairs hall. Now they were outside his door. All right, first of all, everybody ate the toe. Like, why is he just coming for him?
Doesn't that freak you out though? Like hearing like footsteps and not being able to do anything about it. That scares me.
Where is my big toe? The voice
Stop.
groaned.
I'd jump out the window. I'd come in your room and be like,
He's outside your door. The boy watched in horror as his bedroom door opened, shaking with fear. He threw his bedclothes over his head and listened as the footsteps slowly moved through the dark towards his bed. Then they stopped. Where's my toe? The voice groaned. You've got it! In all caps. Ooh, alright, this is a side note. The big toe has an alternate ending. When the boy hears the voice calling for his toe, he finds a strange-looking creature up inside his chimney. The boy is so frightened he can't move. He just stands there and stares at it. Wait. So was the other ending just him, like, saying, you've got it? You've got my toe?
I'm confused.
I don't have a whole lot of closure.
Alright, this is the one where he's in the chimney.
Okay.
He finally asks, whoa, what you got big such eyes for? Wait, such big eyes for? I'm dyslexic. The creature answers, you, to look you through and through. What?
Is this the big bad wolf?
Whoa, what you got such big claws for? To scratch up your grave. Damn, that escalated quickly.
Wait, what are the other descriptive?
What you got such a big mouth for? To swallow you whole.
This is
Whoa,
awful.
whoa.
Story! It's
What
Red
you-
Riding Hood!
What you got such sharp teeth for?
No, the wolf never.
To chomp your bones.
I don't like
the
this
end.
story anymore.
That is the end of the big
How do
toe.
I go
That
back?
was the worst story.
Was that really how that shit ended?
Yeah.
What is that?
Harold.
I know they like ate it, but I didn't know that. Damn. Can I see those raspberries?
Mhm.
What do you want to read? The
And I got a
babysitter?
colorful aura.
The bride?
You pick one, Meg.
Yeah, it's
I got
Meg's
neon guts. Megan, can you?
We're cuddling.
Kissing.
Just delicious. That's the one. So this story's about me.
Why?
There was a man who loved to eat. Every day he went home at noon to eat lunch with his wife. The man was not a good husband. He was mean. He was a mean, bad-tempered, overbearing bully, and his wife was afraid of him. She was a shy, timid woman who did everything he asked. If she didn't, he would often beat her.
Oh no.
One day, on his way home for lunch, the man stopped at the butcher shop and bought a pound of liver. He gave it to his wife and told her to cook it for dinner that night. His wife had prepared pasta for lunch, so he sat down to eat. While the man ate his lunch, his wife told him that a rich old woman in town had died and her body had been brought to the church next door. The man was not interested in what she had to say. He was enjoying his plate of ravioli, which he washed down with a nice glass of wine. He didn't want to stop eating long enough to tell her to shut up.
Damn.
Finally, he said, "Enough, I've got to get back to work." That evening, the wife began preparing the dinner. She seasoned the liver and cooked it slowly in a pot with vegetables and broth. After a while, she lifted the lid and the liver looked like it was done, so she cut off a small piece and popped it in her mouth. It was just delicious. The flavors were rich and vibrant. She thought it was the best meal she had ever made. She tasted another piece and another and another. It was so good she couldn't stop herself, and before she knew it, the pot was empty. Damn, bitch. Then she thought of her husband, and she began to panic. He would be coming home soon. What would he do when he found she had eaten all of the liver? He was not the type of man who would understand. He would be very angry, and she remembered the beatings he had given her before. She did not want to face that again. But where could she get another piece of liver that late in the day?
How could she cook it?
It was then that she remembered the rich old woman who was lying alone in the church next door, lying in an open coffin, waiting to be buried. After finishing his meal, her husband got up from the table, patted his belly, and said, "That was just delicious." He had never had a better dinner. The salad with a drizzle of olive oil and just the right amount of garlic and vinegar, the fresh garlic bread, and the tastiest, most tender liver that almost melted in his mouth. He looked at his wife. "Aren't you going to have some?" he asked. "I'm not hungry," she replied. "You finish it." That night they went to bed. The man had fallen asleep, but his wife was lying in the darkness, unable to close her eyes. All she could think about was what she had done. Just then, she thought she heard a voice in the distance.
Stop.
"My liver," it said. "Who has my liver?" It sounded like the voice of an old woman. Gradually it came closer. "I want my liver," it said.
I want
"Who
my
has
toe?"
my liver?
I'm done.
The wife listened. Was it just her imagination? Was she dreaming? The cry came again and again, piercing and terrible. "Give me back my liver," it said. "Give me back my liver." "No, no, no," the woman whispered. "I don't have it. I don't have your liver." Now the voice was right next to her. "Who has my liver?" it asked. "Who has my liver?"
That was my liver.
The wife was trembling with fear. She pointed to her husband and said, "He does." Suddenly, the wife awoke in a cold sweat. She was so frightened she could barely breathe. She couldn't stand the strain any longer. She shook her husband, and when he woke up, she confessed everything. She told him she had eaten the liver he bought. She told him how she had crept into the church next door. She told him how she had slit open the belly of the corpse, deftly cut out the liver, and brought it home to cook it. Her description was so vivid her husband could almost see it happening before his eyes. As he listened, he grew more and more angry. Then she told him about the ghostly voice she had heard, and he grew more and more fearful. The man was terrified of ghosts.
Me.
"I'm the one who ate the liver," he said. "That means she will be coming for me to wreak her vengeance." He got out of bed without a word. He went downstairs. His wife sat in bed wondering what he was going to do. A few minutes later she heard his footsteps coming up the stairs again, and when he appeared in the doorway, she saw he was holding a knife in his hand. She screamed and screamed. Later that night, the husband crept into the church next door. He approached the open coffin and placed a fresh new liver in the belly of the corpse. Then he went home and climbed into bed. His sleep was never disturbed again, and nobody ever saw his wife again.
That's fucked up.
No. What?
She was just trying to feed the man a liver.
Well, also, I feel like she could have.
I think the first issue in this story is that they're eating liver.
I think the first issue is that. I have a lot of issues, but I would like to read a new story.
They conveniently live next to, like, this church, and, like, how did she cook it quick enough? You might as well have just gone to the store and bought a new one.
Why was it more
By the time you
convenient
cut it out of the
to,
woman.
Like, break into a church and, like, take a liver, carve a human's body, and, like...
The liver wouldn't even be good because she was dead. There was nothing in it.
Yeah, and, like, humans' livers probably don't taste as good because, like, we
We eat shit.
Like, we use them.
Gotta get closer. I don't know what to read.
There's so many options. Stop, that's loud.
Stop. Okay. I'll read Harold. I mean, no harm, no foul.
It's very hot in here. In these onesies.
That it is.
There was an old farmer in Arizona who owned the best farm in the area. Peaceful. Everybody said his crops were the best, and people came from all over to buy their goods from him. Whenever people asked him how he was able to grow such good quality crops, the old farmer would say it was all down to his scarecrow. That old scarecrow is the one I have to thank, said the farmer. He makes sure no crows or critters or pets come near my crops. The old farmer had built the scarecrow himself, and it was a fearsome sight. He spent months working on it to make it as scary as possible. He knew how important it was to keep pests away from his crops. So he gave it enormous straw arms that stretched out about 6 feet and big long legs that made it as tall as a tree. But the scariest thing about this scarecrow was its head. The farmer carved it himself out of a huge pumpkin. He spent countless days and nights perfecting his design until it was perfect. Okay, I don't spend more than like 10 minutes carving my pumpkin.
For real.
The scarecrow's face.
It's gonna rot.
Exactly. That don't make no sense to me. The scarecrow's face and head was so grotesque and ugly that even he was sometimes scared to look at it.
Me.
But it was very effective, scaring away every rodent and bird that ventured near. The neighboring farm was owned by 2 young men who were brothers named Josh and Harold.
Ooh.
They were lazy and never did much work around the farm, which resulted in their crops being bad. They were jealous of the old farmer's success and were plotting against him. If they could drive him out of business, they could take over his farm and make more money. So one night the brothers decided to sneak onto the old farmer's land. They stole his prized scarecrow and brought it back to their own house, where they stuffed it into an old closet so nobody would ever find it.
Fit into a closet if it's 12 feet wide.
We just found a plot hole. The next day, the farmer woke up to find his hideous scarecrow missing and all his crops being eaten by rats and crows. He fell to his knees and cried, knowing that his farm would soon be out of business.
Poor guy.
Meanwhile, the brothers Josh and Harold were watching from their own property and couldn't help laughing out loud when they saw the old man's tears of grief. Are they heartless?
After one night, all of his crops got eaten by crows.
They're
Pothole
vicious
number
out there.
2.
It's a vicious world, Megan.
Hearing the laughter, the old farmer came over and asked them if they knew what happened to his scarecrow. The brothers looked him right in the eye and said they had no idea where his precious scarecrow might be. "But you know I'll go out of business and have to sell my farm if I can't find my scarecrow," said the farmer. Josh just laughed in his face, saying, "That's just your tough luck, isn't it?" "Sucks to be you," giggled Harold. Shit. Yeah. The old farmer walked slowly back to his house, his head hanging down in defeat and depression. That night as Josh and Harold had trouble sleeping, not because they felt any remorse, but because they couldn't get the image of the scarecrow's horrible, twisted face out of their minds. They decided they would never be able to sleep as long as that ugly pumpkin head was in their house. So they got up and dragged the scarecrow out of the closet. Harold took a baseball bat and smashed the scarecrow's head to pieces until all that was left was little bits of pumpkin strewn around the floor. The brothers swept up the pumpkin head pieces and threw them in the trash. Then they went back to bed and were soon fast asleep, having put all thoughts of disgusting scarecrow faces out of their heads.
Couldn't you just make a new scarecrow?
Too easy, Meg.
Too easy.
Why couldn't the brothers just make their own scarecrow?
Too
They
easy.
didn't want a scarecrow, they just wanted to take his. Oh, so all his crops died.
Yeah, they wanted his farm to stop being good. Sometime after midnight, Josh and Harold were awoken by the sounds of scratching and clawing at their bedroom door. "Did you forget to put the dog out?" asked Harold sleepily. Whoa, we don't have a dog. No, damn it, Josh.
2 brothers sleeping in the same room.
Does the same author write all of these? Because the
Apparently.
styles are very similar. Suddenly, the bedroom door burst open, and a solitary long straw arm snaked in through the opening. Then a second arm thrashed around, followed by 2 long stick legs. The 2 brothers were frozen in fear and could only look with horror as the headless scarecrow's body rose up on its long stick legs, and its long arms reached out for them in the darkness.
Why would they ask if you put the dog out if they knew they didn't have a dog?
Stupid. Harold, Pothole
Yeah.
3. No. Harold felt a cold, sinewy straw close around his ankle and screamed as loud as he could. He begged his brother Josh to help him, but Josh was already running out of the bedroom. What? What kind of brothers are these?
Josh ain't saving no one.
Josh ain't no good.
Josh and Harold.
Now I'm imagining them as Drake and Josh.
Fleeing in terror, it makes it funnier. Fleeing in terror, he ran down the hallway, crashed through the front door, and out into the moonlight road he ran. He ran as fast as his legs could carry him, puffing and panting and screaming at the top of his voice. As he passed his neighbor's house, he saw the old farmer standing at his gate. In the moonlight, he could see the farmer just staring at him with a strange smile on his face. Josh kept running, his bare feet slapping against the rough gravel road. He glanced back over his shoulder and saw something that scared him to his very soul. He saw the scarecrow running along the road close behind him. It was gaining on him, coming closer and closer. And that wasn't all he saw. He noticed that the scarecrow had a brand new head, and it looked a lot like Harold. The end.
That
Ooh.
made no sense.
Elaborate.
I just don't understand, like, okay, if their farm was shitty, then why didn't they just, like, notice that the other guy's farm was good because, like, he had a scarecrow, so they could have, like, made their own scarecrow, or they could have taken the scarecrow and put it up in their farm, so, like, their crops would grow and shit.
But if they put it up in their farm, then he would know that they took it.
And, like, if they took the scarecrow, I would immediately throw it away, so, like, there wasn't any evidence. So, like, if someone came to, like, check to see. We good?
Yeah, I'm just making sure.
Like, check to see if I had stolen their scarecrow, it would be gone. And then, if it was, like, freaking them out, you don't just beat the shit out of, like, whatever's scaring you. That's not how you solve, like... It just doesn't make any sense. And, like,
At what point
did
did
the
it become
farmer-
haunted?
did the farmer know that the
was
scarecrow was
always
gonna be homicidal? Like, why was he smirking? Like, did he know?
Yeah.
If so, then I feel like the farmer's the real villain here.
Well, I mean, you do what you gotta
He
do.
killed someone. No, he killed someone.
He carved that pumpkin on.
So he knew that the scarecrow was gonna kill people
Mm-hmm.
if needed.
Is that why it took so long?
Yeah.
To make it
He's bringing him to
homicidal.
life.
Bringing that pumpkin to life.
What's that song? How can you see into my eyes like open doors?
Well, next story. Okay.
Without a song. That meme, oh my god, that meme that was on Twitter of wake me up. Wake me up inside. It's like them screaming at each other. Save me. Save me from everything.
I'm thinking.
You have to hold this.
No, I don't. Do I have to read it?
Yeah, it's your turn.
Weak. Guys, talk about something else.
All I can talk about is Evanescence and their hit song "Bring Me to Life."
Their only song.
Their only song, "Bring Me to Life." All the Evanescence fans that follow us are gonna be like, "Hey, you watch it now."
Wake me up, Megan. The dream. Everyone, look at this picture.
I don't like it.
Me when I'm getting ready for school. Did it just move?
Yeah, it's a gif.
Oh, that scared me. I thought I was going crazy.
I was like,
The dream. Lexi Morgan had a dream.
wow.
Martin Luther had a dream.
Martin Luther King.
That's racist.
Like, is it?
I'm sorry. Lexi Morgan had a dream. She was walking up a dark staircase and when she got to the top, she walked into a bedroom. The bedroom carpet was made up of large squares that looked like trapdoors, and each of the windows was fastened shut with big nails that stuck out of the wood. In her dream, Lexi went to sleep in the bedroom, but during the night, a woman with a pale face, black eyes, and long hair slipped silently into the room. She leaned over the bed and whispered, "This is an evil place. Run away while you still can." Then, the black-haired woman grabbed her arm. Lexi Morgan woke up with a scream and laid awake for the rest of the night, shivering and shaking with fear. Why was she sleeping in this? Is this the dream?
Is it her house?
No, this is the dream.
I'm confused.
Did that describes
Oh,
the
that was
dream.
just the dream she had?
Yeah. In the morning, she told her landlady that she decided to not go to Kingston after all. "I can't tell you why. I just can't bring myself to go there." "Then why don't you go to Dorset?" the landlady asked. "It's a pretty town, and it isn't too far." So Lexi Morgan went to Dorset. Someone told her that she could find a room in a house at the top of a hill. It was a pleasant-looking house, and the landlady there, a plump, motherly woman, was nice as could be. "Let's look at that room," she said. "I think you will like it." They walked up a dark, covered staircase, like the one in Lexi's dreams. In these old houses, the staircases are all the same, Lexi thought. But when the landlady opened the door to the bedroom, it was the room, like in her dream, with the same carpet that looked like trapdoors. I'm sorry,
How does a carpet look like trapdoors?
That is a good question.
People's
And the
trapdoor
same
has-
windows fastened with big nails. This is just a coincidence, Lexi told herself. How do you like it? The landlady asked. I'm not sure, Lexi said. We'll take your time, the landlady said. I'll bring up some tea while you think about it. Lexi sat on the bed, staring at those trapdoors and the big nails. Soon there was a knock at the door. It's the landlady with the tea, she thought. But it wasn't the landlady. It was the one with a pale face, black eyes, and long black hair. Lexi Morgan grabbed her things and fled.
Lexi Morgan.
Why did we need her whole name the whole story?
I don't know. That wasn't good.
No, it wasn't. I'm mad.
Want me to pick a new one?
That was 4.
one more.
Burning Feet.
Yes.
Mia dance.
Burning Feet. Do you want me to read it?
Oh yeah, you're good.
Alright, this one is entitled Burning Feet. Featuring Megan singing Bring Me to Life. Alright, Burning Feet is... Oh. Was this really how it starts? Okay. Burning Feet is a scary story about a man who
You don't have
hires...
to read that part. I skipped that part.
Oh. There was a wealthy man who loved hunting. He decided to go on a trip to a remote part of northern Canada. It was a forsaken and desolate part of the country, and few people ever ventured there.
A forsaken part of the country.
Even fewer went there to hunt.
Wow.
Good question. He traveled to... He traveled to a trading post and tried to find a guide. He asked around, but nobody he spoke to would agree to take him. All they said was, it was too dangerous.
Maybe he should have taken the hint.
Eventually, he was put in touch with a stocky Cajun man by the name of De Fuego. The man seemed to know a lot about trapping and how to survive in the wilderness, and the hunter thought he would make an excellent guide. De Fuego was badly in need of money and agreed to take the hunter out to the best hunting grounds. Well, is it really the best hunting grounds if fewer people hunted there?
It means there's more animals there. Because they're not being hunted.
Like they're probably not gonna hunt there because it's like.
Oh, alright. They set out together, paddling down the river in a small canoe. When they reached their destination, the man set up camp near a large frozen lake. Then how was the river melted? Rivers don't freeze. As far as the eye could see, the ground was covered in a thick blanket of snow. The hunter was enchanted by its beauty, and he enjoyed the sense of freedom it gave him. For 3 days, they hunted on the icy plains, but they had nothing to show for it. Luckily, De Fuego taught him how to break a hole in the ice and catch some fish, so they did not go hungry. The hunter was glad he had chosen to bring the guide. He knew that the only thing that lay between him and starvation was De Fuego. The third night, a windstorm came up. They lay in their tent, listening to the wind howling and the trees whipping back and forth. To see the storm better, the hunter opened the tent flap. What he saw startled him. There wasn't a breath of air stirring, and the trees were standing perfectly still. Yet he could still hear the wind howling.
Why would you want to see the storm going on?
And the more he listened, the more it sounded as if they were calling De Fuego's name. De Fuego. It seemed to be calling.
Oh yes.
De Fuego. I must be losing my mind, the hunter thought. When he closed the tent flap and turned around, he saw that De Fuego had gotten out of his sleeping bag and was huddled in a corner of the tent, his head buried in his arms. What's wrong? The hunter asked. It's nothing, De Fuego said. Just the wind playing tricks on your ears. But the voice that carried in the wind continued to call his name. It sounded oddly seductive and sweet, and De Fuego became more tense and nervous. De Fuego, it called. De Fuego!
The Cajun man flew into a panic and jumped to his feet. His eyes were wild and he was trembling. He pulled back the flap of the tent and was about to get out when the hunter grabbed him by the arm. "Where are you going?" the hunter shouted. "You can't leave me here alone. How will I—" Suddenly, he was interrupted by a tremendous roar of the wind coming across the lake. The trees overhead shook with the force of it, and the campfire flickered and threatened to go out.
De Fuego's got some shit.
Oh, I lost my place. There was a tremendous rushing noise as something swept over the tent, almost lifting it off the ground. De Fuego was shaking with fear. All of a sudden, he broke loose and fled from the tent. The hunter watched as his guide ran off and was swallowed up by the darkness.
Oh.
The hunter could hear him screaming as he went. Over and over he cried, "Oh, my fiery feet, my burning feet on fire." Then his voice faded again, away into the night, and the wind calmed down again. At the first sign of daylight, the hunter followed De Fuego's tracks in the snow. The trail led through the woods, down toward the lake, and out onto the ice. But he soon noticed something strange. The footprints De Fuego had left became longer and longer. They were so long that no human could have made them. It was as if something had happened to him. It was as if something had helped him to hurry away. The hunter followed the tracks out to the middle of the lake, but there they disappeared. At first he thought De Fuego had fallen through the lake, or through the ice, but there wasn't any hole. Then he thought that something had pulled him off the ice into the sky, but that just made no sense. As he stood...
It's like as if the rest of the story is making a whole lot of sense.
As if the wind wasn't saying his name.
Yeah. Now the hunter wanted to leave that place as fast as he could. He went back to camp and packed. Then he left some food for De Fuego and started out. Weeks later, he reached the trading post and set about looking for De Fuego. He asked around, but none of the people had seen him. He told them what he had witnessed, but nobody could explain what had happened to De Fuego that night. One old man took him aside and whispered, "Could it have been the Wendigo? Wendigo? Wendigo?
You know who takes Spanish? I don't.
Say Wendigo. Wendigo, repeated the hunter. What is that? They say it comes with the wind, said the old man. It calls your name and tries to trick you. Once it has you in its clutches, it drags you along at great speed until your feet are burned away. Then it drags you some more and burns away more of you than that. They say it carries you into the sky. What the fuck? And drops you.
Where?
That's a story I heard as a child, but it's an old Indian legend. Who knows if it's true? The following year, the hunter went back to the same area.
Why?
Where does he get dropped?
He was buying supplies at the trading post and again asked about his old guide, De Fuego.
Why would he come back?
Nobody had seen nor heard of him.
Is that it?
There's one little bit more. Oh gosh. As the night fell, the hunter was sitting by the campfire. The darkness brought forth a strange figure of a man. He came in, sat far from the fire, but... Oh my god, I can't read. He came in and sat far from the fire, where the light and the shadows mingled. The man had a blanket wrapped around him, and his hood was pulled down so low that his face was hidden in shadow. The hunter watched him for a while and thought there was something familiar about him. De Fuego, is that you? The stranger didn't answer. It is you, isn't it, De Fuego? No answer. The hunter began to wonder if something was wrong, if the man needed help, but he couldn't see his face. Are you all right? He asked. No answer. De Fuego, can you tell me what happened? Just a little, so that I can help you. From beneath his hood, the stranger muttered something. His voice was low and breathless. I seen that great big Wendigo thing, he whispered. The hunter wanted to get a look at De Fuego.
I seen.
He still wasn't sure if it was really him. He reached out and tugged at the man's hood. The hood fell back, and the blanket dropped to the ground. The hunter screamed in horror. There was nothing under the blanket but a pile of ashes.
You got me.
I seen that great big Wendigo thing.
Wow.
I kind of got into that one.
Yeah. I mean, none of those were really like.
Well, there's also
spooky,
scary
I feel
stories for
like.
kids.
Yeah.
Oh.
They weren't too spooky.
They were good.
Well, thanks for joining us on this Spookcast, friends.
We hope we kept you on the edge of your seat.
Happy Halloween!
Happy Halloween. Love Quadcast.
Happy Halloween.
Bye.
Bye.